Hello and welcome to the
which
Growth
is a good thing.
Podcast. It's another disastrous afternoon at Old Trafford. We were played off the pitch by another rival. In some ways, it was worse than Liverpool because they didn't have to get a second gear. They just toyed with us, and it was a really, really easy afternoon for Man City. They weren't as ruthless as Liverpool, who scored 5 goals, but really, really, it was just as embarrassing. So, what was your thoughts on it, Chris?
Yeah, I think you summed it up there, Kyle. It was just another bad day at the office, really. Yep, a poor performance. City never had to get out of second gear. They just made it look easy, and we made it easy for them. And I think that sums it. I think that sums it up, really. What more can be said? Just another poor performance. Yeah, not good enough.
What was your thoughts on yesterday's debacle then, Nigel?
I thought it was inexcusable that a team put out would perform as poorly as that. It's fairly clear to most of us now that the manager has lost the dressing room. There was at one stage where Bruno, who's been our most effective player for most of the last 2 years, basically threw the towel in, didn't run, didn't compete for a header. So something has to be done pretty quickly, or I don't see us even making the Europa League at the end of this season.
Yeah, apparently Bruno only sprinted 4 times in the whole game, according to the official stats, which is pretty damning. Like, and he's a player you would have associated with, trying his all for the shirt. But if he's now not playing to the manager, then the manager really is in trouble. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, it's not good. The whole body language from the team, I think, has been bad probably most of the season, really. And like you say, there's certain players, you sort of do expect that off. Pogba being one, who you never look interested, but Bruno is a player who always generally looks interested, and the fact that he is now not even putting in a shift, that it doesn't say good things. It's either yeah, it's either that sort of attitudes creeping into the team and affecting players like him who you normally expect to give their all. Whether it's that or something else, but either way, yeah. I mean, at that level, ability only ever gets you so far. You have to put a shift in if you're gonna win games, never mind trophies. And if we're not doing that, then there's no hope for us, really.
Yeah, we've seen another apology online from Harry Maguire, and it really is just boring now. I just it'd be better if the players just said absolutely nothing. It just gets. I'm just not interested anymore. Nigel, I'm sure you'll agree that players apologizing after dire performances like that just means absolutely nothing to the fans.
Absolutely nothing, Kyle. And when you see the differential in the wages between our club and the rest of the Premier League, we're sitting with our players earning £60 million a year more than the rest. Chelsea is the closest to us. It's just shameful. Then the media coverage today, where you see our goalkeeper, who was my man of the match, physically hitting the side of the tunnel as he leaves at half time. What is a player like that with that commitment supposed to do with four players in front of him who are basically not protecting him and not competing? It's just scandalous at this stage.
Yeah, I mean, there's no, they're not a unit defensively. They're not coached properly. He keeps picking Fred McTominay in midfield. I mean, how is Fred McTominay going to compete against De Bruyne, Gudogan, and Foden? I mean, they're just not on the same level. But he always picks Maguire, always picks Lindelof when he can, and always picks McFred. And he played well against Atalanta. He scored an own goal, which it could happen to any defender. I'm not saying it wasn't a mistake, of course it was, but I seen a tweet from a Twitter page called United Faithfuls. He said Bailly made a mistake and was sacrificed at half time because he had to switch to a back four. But Maguire and Shaw have been costing us goals, yet no consequences. If Maguire scored the OG, would Solskjaer have substituted him at half time? I doubt it. And that's been a major issue, the favouritism that Solskjaer has towards certain players. Do you agree, Chris?
Yeah, I think that's a very fair comment, Kyle. I think that's a very fair comment indeed. What was the game? I can't even remember the game now. Where Fred, it was clear that Fred was a complete liability. I can't remember. I think it was a Champions League game. Might even have been. Yeah, I can't remember the game. Might have been last season even. But everybody was, their granny was saying he needs to be hooked at half time, and he went on and ended up getting sent off. I think that just shows what you said there, the fact that seems to be some players under and do seem to be untouchable even when they're having an absolute stinker, yet yeah, other guys he won't take off for whatever reason, even though it's obvious to everybody that they need to come off. Yeah, it's strange. I don't know what the reason for it is. But you're not going to win football games like that, and that's what's happening really.
See some dissent being shown now from relatives of the players who are not playing. For example, Jesse Lingard's brother said on Instagram, didn't know Sky now show live training sessions. And he went on to say, Keane just said go smash someone. Pogba did it last week and got killed for it by schools. Double standards. Start reading into these pundits. Still waiting for Guy Neville to talk about body language. Oh, I forgot. He will only say that about the players. So clearly, Lingard has been talking about his frustrations to his brother, and he's airing them online. And I mean, it seems to be, and it's no surprise that leaks were coming out after the Liverpool debacle. Players probably talking to their relatives and agents, and stories are coming out about the favoritism. Certain players not being played at all, other players being played no matter what their form. And another thing you'd be interested in this, Nigel, is Brandon Williams put out a tweet to say goodbye to the Norwich manager, and he quoted saying, "An important win for the team and a nice parting gift to the manager who believed in me." That sounded like a dig to Solskjaer there. What do you think of that, Nigel?
Yes, it's a very interesting comment from a player I always liked. You could never say that Brandon Williams, who may not be absolutely top level, but when he was on the pitch wearing the red shirt, he always competed. You never saw him hide. The evidence yesterday was clear that those players were sent out and told that City could keep the ball for as long as they like. They embarrassed us throughout the 90 minutes. Our players didn't get close enough to tackle. The two fullbacks now are disastrous. They don't get anywhere near the wingers and don't cut out crosses. And you saw what happened when Bailly deflected the own goal. Just look at the table where we are now. We have effectively lost 16 points out of 33 in 11 games. If that's good enough for Manchester United and the board thinks that's satisfying, the fans certainly won't. And they may still come, but I effectively see them leaving games early, just absolutely, totally cheesed off by the players who are getting paid so much money.
Yeah, well, we saw that at the Liverpool game. Thousands of fans walking down Busby Way. Midway through the second half. And yesterday, the fans were leaving early as well. And it's very, very hard to take. Our rivals inside Old Trafford, the rival fans, 3,000 of them, singing "Ollie, Ollie, Ollie." Give them a 5-year contract. Ollie's at the wheel. I mean, that's just a total embarrassment that our rivals are singing the name of our manager, and they all want to see him to stay. The same way as we've talked about the way we want to see Benitez stay at Liverpool 10 years ago, because he was running them into the ground at that stage. I mean, yesterday again, he played 3 centre backs against a team who are without a centre forward. So who are they meant to be marking? I mean, who came up with that idea? It's just absolutely mind boggling.
Yeah, I think it's just after the absolute drubbing at Liverpool, it's nearly like we've just went into full defensive mode where it's just, have everybody at the back, play 5 defenders, and just hope that that's enough, to stop goals leaking through. But unfortunately, you can't have 5 guys standing still. And it means that, as soon as they move, they're moving into the wrong positions, and teams are just going to continue to get space because the players just aren't good enough. I mean, what I've said for the last while, Kyle, I defended Ollie for a long time for the last couple of years. This season for me, I do think that it's been proven that even with players at his disposal, he's not good enough. But that said, there's some of those guys just aren't good enough either. I don't think they're ever going to be. And sometimes football, it's not even about ability. It's not about pace. It's just about how you think. It's about, particularly when you're a defender, it's about positional play. It's about being intelligent and spotting danger. And some of those players, they just don't seem to be able to do it. The Liverpool game was horrendous. Some of the defending was a schoolboy as I've ever seen from a professional team. And throwing more bodies in there I don't think it's going to solve it.
Yeah, was Michael Owen was saying, I don't often agree with him, that Jurgen Klopp, for example, plays the same system from the moment he took over Liverpool. It's the same style of play, it's the same system, the same formation, and he sticks with it. And if certain players didn't fit into it, then they went and they were replaced. All he keeps chopping and changing the system, week on week now, and it's just all that does is create confusion. We just don't have like a philosophy or an identity. It's just, what is this? What are we watching?
Yeah, there's no strategy there at all. I mean, if you consider yesterday's defeat was the 10th home defeat since January, what happened to Fortress Old Trafford? This guy has lost control altogether. His excuses become more inane and unbelievable week on week. We have to make a change there fairly quickly. I think that the rest of the football world is laughing at our great club by our retention of a man who can't control his dressing room and doesn't know which direction he's leading the team.
Yeah, and I understand, he's another damning stat, that 21% of United's losses at Old Trafford in the Premier League era have come under Solskjaer alone. So that's pretty humiliating, considering he's only been in the job 3 years. And I mean, the Premier League is now being on the go for 30 years, and he's responsible for a quarter of our home defeats. So yeah, it seems like the fans know that his time's up. They have known for weeks now. So, I mean, some fans like us have known probably since the Europa League final his time was up. But when will Ed Woodward and Richard Arnold and Joe Glazer wake up and smell the coffee? What do you think, Chris?
I don't think the care, Kyle. You know, I've said this for a long time. I've said it for a long time that the board and the owners of Manchester United are just as much the problem as the manager or any player is. And I just honestly don't. I have no faith in them. I don't think they care. I don't think they give a toss. I genuinely believe that the at board level, what Manchester United are, their beliefs is what you always said Arsenal were before, where they were happy to finish top four. I genuinely believe that's what they're interested in. I don't think they care if we never win another trophy, as long as we're in the Champions League every season and they get the revenue coming in from TV and all that stuff. I really don't think they give a toss. I mean, you know, I thought after Liverpool defeat, you know, the way the fans reacted, he might get sacked. Then, you know, as you rightly said, there was only a couple of games to go to the international break. So I was thinking, okay, maybe we get to then and maybe they'll let him go. But the things that I'm hearing now from pundits and people, I'm beginning to think that even now they're not going to make a change because they don't care. I believe they need to make a change, but I've no faith in them to do it.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's like a cat with 9 lives, isn't he? I mean, we've seen two Premier League managers gone this weekend already, and Solskjaer's still in the job, and there's no sign that there's any kind of board meeting going on at Old Trafford. Some journalists have suggested that Ed Woodward is leaving soon, and he doesn't want his last action to be sacking another manager because it'd be a personal embarrassment to himself. So again, Ed Woodward thinking of his own reputation. What reputation? Rather than the club and our future. It's just the same old shit, isn't it, Nigel?
Yeah, I think Chris has covered everything that I could say about that. The genuine fan knows that the football club has become a business for people who are making decisions about the manager who know nothing about football. They're accountants and they're business people who live in the corporate world with all the jetting here and jetting there. The fans that pay £50 every week to watch that, they just can't put up with it anymore. It's an abomination. It's disgusting, and it's an embarrassing for the club. They really need to make a decision before this gets much worse.
We could see as fans, as football fans, that United are in danger of not making the top four. I mean, Spurs have appointed Antonio Conte, and West Ham are looking strong under David Moyes. So we're by no means guaranteed fourth, and fourth would be a step back from finishing second. But the problem is these bankers and accountants don't understand football. They still see it as possible mathematically for us to make fourth, but we can see we're in real danger of not getting there, and that's the issue. It might take another beating by Chelsea, maybe a beating by Arsenal before they finally act. Maybe not even them. I mean, it's atrocious. So I know this is going to be painful, but let's get on to the player ratings. I'm going to do the easy one first, and that's David De Gea. I mean, it would have been a cricket score again. How many times have we said that in the last 10 years? If it wasn't for him, an easy 8 out of 10 for me, despite conceding 2 goals. I think in the first half alone, after Ederson's save from Ronaldo, between then and half time, De Gea made 5 saves. I mean, that's at Old Trafford. I don't care who we're playing. That's an absolute embarrassment. So I'll get on to Aaron Wan-Bissaka, and I'll come to you, Nigel. I mean, Shaw Maguire and Love we've been criticising for a long time, but Wan-Bissaka seems to have caught a disease now. He was absolutely abysmal, wasn't he?
Yeah, one. I give him a one just for turning out. Couldn't give him any higher than that. Was way out of position most of the game. Never got near the winger at any stage. Just stood and watched Foden control the ball, line it up and cross to the Manchester City attackers. The guy has lost it. We paid £50 million for this player. When he came to the club, he was fabulous on the one-to-one tackles. That was his strength. Now he doesn't do that. And we know how bad he is at going forward at his offensive duties. So one, he's lucky to get the one.
Okay, I'll come to you about your favourite defender, Chris, Harry Maguire.
Yeah, I'm gonna go for a one as well, a generous one. Just again, Kyle. Yeah, my favorite defender. There's lots of things that I don't like watching Harry Maguire, but he seems to be constantly, he's caught out of position, and then he hasn't the pace to get back. I think that's the thing that's the worst about it. A player like him, for me, when he doesn't have pace, position is 100% your game. That's when you don't have pace, you've got to be in the right place at the right time by reading the game. And he doesn't do that. He doesn't smell danger. He's just lax. He looks to me overconfident sometimes. It's nearly like he looks like, it's all right, I've got this, and he never actually has it. And that just just awful again. Yeah, I hate criticizing players. I really do, playing for Man United, but Maguire just doesn't look good enough for me. Never has. I don't think he ever will be, unfortunately.
Okay, Nigel, how would you rate Eric Bailly yesterday? He was hooked at half time after scoring an own goal after a brilliant display against Atalanta, but the manager clearly doesn't fancy him. So, what did you think of his 45 minutes?
Well, I'd give him a three. I mean, I think he's always been a trier, but he certainly, once the deflection happened, as you could see it in his face and his body language, his confidence just went. And Kyle, it's not the first time he's been hooked at halftime, so we all really called it that was going to happen. So he's had an unfortunate career. I was a great believer but as you say, there certainly seems to be a disease in that back four because there isn't one good player there among the whole lot of them. It's a disaster, frankly.
Yeah, and Lindelof, something similar for me. He was really, really poor. He gets turned too easily. He gets caught out of position. He's slow. He's lethargic. He's not good in the air, and yeah, he was part of the problem too. He always is. So I would give him a 1 out of 10. Luke Shaw been absolutely disastrous all season, hasn't he, Chris?
Yeah, he's been terrible, Kyle, since he came back from international duty during the summer. He's just been awful, and it's a shame because Shaw's a player that I generally really like. His career in general, has been a strange one at United. He started off very promising, and then he kind of went down a bit. People accused him of being overweight and not fit, and then he sprung back again, and he was really looking good, and he looked like, he's a player that we thought when we bought him. And this season, he's just went back to being his old self again. Just doesn't look at it. The attitude doesn't look right. And he's another one that at times I think looks overconfident, and a defender that always concerns me. He's I don't know what's going on with him at all. I don't know if it's the hangover from the Euros or if it's just his attitude. I don't know which, but he doesn't look the player that he did last year.
That second City goal was just absolute laziness from Luke Shaw. He just assumed the ball was going to go out for a goal kick and didn't notice that a man was coming in behind him. And we've seen that before from Luke Shaw, not defending the back post properly.
Yeah, that's what I say by complacency. Yeah, it's just that look again, same as Maguire. It's that look of, it's all right, I have this in hand, even when they don't. And it's just like you need to be switched on at that level. You need to be, as I say, smelling danger, concentrating completely. And those guys at times just look overconfident, and that is always going to be causing problems.
Okay, we'll come on to Fred now. I mean, what more can be said at this point, Nigel?
Another one, Kyle. The guy is a walking disaster. I mean, for a Brazilian footballer playing at Old Trafford on that great stage, he just disappoints me week in and week out. And as you referred to earlier, the manager has a liking for him. Rain, hail or snow, he gets picked, doesn't score any goals, can't hold the ball, can't change the game, no vision, absolutely nothing there. The guy has to go, and as soon as possible.
Yeah, well, a couple of things that we're hoping for under a new manager is that Maguire will be dropped, stripped of the captaincy. Fred will be sold, and I'll be ruthless with Pogba and send him on the slow boat to France as well. Those are three things that we're hoping for within the first few months of the new coach. Fingers crossed. So Scott McTominay, Chris, yeah, poor. Yeah, I mean, him and Fred come as a pair these days, and if they both either have an okay game or they're both really, really poor, and yesterday was the latter.
Yeah, I'll give him a 2 just because I like him as a person generally, Kyle, and I do think normally, he puts a shift in, and I think he's he seems to love the club and he plays for the badge. But like you say, unfortunately, that's not enough. At Man United, you gotta have the effort and you gotta have the ability. And there's times Scott McTominay looks very good. At times yesterday I thought, he's putting a shift in and stuff, but no, as you say, he comes with Fred and the two of them together. You know, they're not even doing the basics right. Like you say, hanging onto the ball, making a pass and keeping possession. The between them, they can't even manage to do that. And then at times, the both of them just look rash as well. They're going to lunge in and things. It's just a disaster. Yeah, not good.
I mean, McTominay should be a squad player like John O'Shea or Darren Fletcher. He shouldn't be someone that we're relying on week in, week out. I mean, that's the position we should have signed someone in the summer. I mean, the 73 million went on a winger who he doesn't use. We should have spent that on a midfielder, to be quite honest. So Bruno Fernandez, we talked about him earlier. He had 4 sprints in the whole game. He just seems to be not playing for the manager anymore, and he was a disaster. So, Nigel, what would you give him out of 10?
Oh, another one. I mean, I'm a great admirer of his and what he's achieved at the club, but he's lost heart, and it'll impact on the other players, the younger players, when one of their big name stars has the ghost up and is not trying. It's so depressing. And also his altercations with officials, both linesmen and referees, Kyle, now is becoming continually a nuisance, and it's a distraction for what we're trying to achieve. And that reflects his marks, the lowest mark I've ever given the guy.
Yeah, I wouldn't have believed like even a week ago or 2 weeks ago we'd be sitting here giving Bruno Fernandez a 1 out of 10, but that's now the stage we've got to as a team. I mean, it's absolutely shocking. So Mason Greenwood, I think we can safely say we're all big fans of Mason, but the problem is he just doesn't try hard enough when we don't have the ball, and that's probably why he was out of the team against Tottenham and Atalanta from the start, because he just wasn't doing enough. He came back in against City probably because Cavani wasn't available and Rashford apparently couldn't start the game. But again, he just was a complete lack of effort. So what would you give him, Chris?
Yeah, a 2, unfortunately, Kai. Like you said, I think he's just summed it up there. That's Mason Greenwood at the minute. Lots and lots of ability. You can score with both feet. I've talked about him lots and how great he is. But you're right. Again, just as I said earlier, it comes back to it. It's ability and effort. Those are the 2 things you need to be a top level footballer. He's got the ability. He's not putting in the effort. And that, unfortunately, that's what's killing United these days. It's not lack of individual players' ability; it's a lack of collective effort. And Mason Greenwood, unfortunately, is part of that. Yeah. So a generous 2, I think.
Okay, Cristiano Ronaldo, Nigel. He showed a bit of class with that left-footed shot on the turn that Ederson had to save. Our only shot on target, I think, in the whole game. But he just had absolutely no service. I mean, he was trying, he was chasing down the goalkeeper and defenders, but getting absolutely no change. I mean, what can you do when City are dominating possession? What did they have? 72% possession in the first half. I mean, what is a number 9 meant to do in that situation?
Oh, he can't do anything at all. There was no service whatsoever. I would give him a 5 simply because he was the one player who had a shot on target, and as you say, it was wonderful technique, and he hit it well. It was more or less the keeper, but went to the keeper's left, and the keeper made a good save. But it just showed that he was awake and lively, and if he had been given any service, we might have got a goal. But I saw him throwing his arms up in the second half. I think he knows that. Don't think he believes in the coach, to be honest with you, but he's not going to come out and say that. And the guy's on £520,000 a week, so it's some contract he's on. You can live with that, I suppose. But he is a professional who wants to win, and he's not going to win anything at our club, I'm afraid to say.
Yeah, I'm afraid some of the younger players in our squad are not as driven as Ronaldo and Cavani. And it's really shown at the minute. You get Greenwood, Shaw, Maguire, and so many others. Roy Keane demonstrated his frustration at them. Wan-Bissaka, he singled out as well. I mean, these guys are just not up to the standard. or at least they're not showing it at the moment. I would say it's both a coaching issue and an attitude problem, and it's a real disaster. So Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, I mean, another defensive team, like I touched on earlier, a back five against a team that wasn't playing a striker. I mean, who are they meant to be marking? So it was very, very easy for City to dominate the midfield. I mean, Fred McTominay were heavily outnumbered. They were just able to knock it around at will, and we weren't able to get the ball off them, and it was an easy afternoon. So Solskjaer, it has to be a not for me. You know, any disagreements?
Hard to argue with that.
Well, I'd give him a 1 because he handed the team sheet in. What about that?
It's very generous of you, Nigel.
That's his role in the club now.
So what we'll get on to now is we know we're not expecting a sacking tomorrow morning. We're hoping, but we're not expecting it, because we know this board dithers and divers. I mean, Van Gaal and Mourinho were given a lot longer than they should have got. So it could be Christmas, it could be May before the change is made. So I just want to get on to your preferred candidates. Chris, I'll come to you first. Conte is gone now. You know, he's gone to Spurs, so that's not on the cards. So out of all the managers that have been linked, or any manager at all, who would you prefer to come in and take over at United?
Yeah, I think for me, Kyle, maybe this was wrong, but I do like managers coming in, young managers, and kind of building something. I like the guy at Ajax, Ben Tag, I think his name is. For that reason, he's a young, hungry, up and coming manager. He's managing at a good level as it is, and I feel that somebody like him, Ajax are obviously a massive club as well. I feel like somebody like him would be able to hopefully do well at a club like Manchester United. I know it is a strange one because we've been so long really without kind of winning anything substantial. I understand why people want somebody to come in and just kind of take that squad and try and win something quickly. And I get that too. And I think that was part of the appeal of Conte. And I did like that idea. But I do like a young manager to come in and kind of build something. Part of the problem at United, and this is where, even though I'm saying that, where it maybe is better to have somebody who is going to come in and win something, is that I don't feel, and this is me coming back to being cynical again, I don't feel that the owners and the board level back managers enough. And I don't think that they will ever. I feel like there'll be some players they're going to buy for shirt sales and things, and they'll be thrust on a manager. And I believe that you need a manager who's going to deal with that. And in many ways, a young manager or somebody trying to build something, that's never going to feed into that. So in some ways, you maybe need somebody who's just able to take what they have and squeeze every ounce out of it. So maybe somebody who is proven and as one thing would be better to do that. But my preferred choice would be a young up and coming manager like Ben Tag.
Okay, Nigel, I think we've talked about it in the bar a few times. I think your preferred option is Brendan Rodgers. So why do you hold that view?
Yeah, I think he's established now as a top level manager. His current team has just won a major trophy, the FA Cup. He nearly won the Premier League with Liverpool. He seems to be developing and progressing. The recruitment at Leicester is very good, and if he has a major part in that, certainly the players coming through there, even when they sold as a pup and gave Maguire away for a little matter of £80 million, they've been able to cover his absence as if he wasn't even there. But we need a strong manager, Kyle, principally because there's a discipline problem at Old Trafford. Somebody resolute has to take some of these big name players with big salaries aside, tell them what they want, and saying, yeah, I'll have a look at you for a while and then I'll decide whether you stay at this club. That has to be done. These guys are just coasting week in and week out, getting paid huge wages and not putting the endeavour or the heart in the shirt. Can't last. Rodgers for me.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that at all. Another name that the fans have been calling for is Zinedine Zidane. It doesn't seem likely. He doesn't speak the language, and his agent said a couple of years ago he doesn't want to manage in the Premier League. But Chris, would you welcome Zinedine Zidane in the dugout at Old Trafford?
I think I'm a big Zidane fan from his playing days, Kyle. Yeah, I mean, I think Zidane would probably be good in some ways. He certainly, you would imagine that he would command respect, based on his playing career and his managerial career, that the players would respond to him. And I think what Nigel said is 100% right there. There's definitely an attitude problem at Manchester United. There's complacency has seeped in. You need somebody to come in and shake that up. And I think we all know from Zidane, he's not shy. But like you said, Kyle, I think for those reasons you just gave, I can't actually see it happening. But yeah, certainly you'd imagine that he would sort out, the attitude problems and hopefully get the team playing well. But yeah, I don't think it's likely.
Yeah, well, I would take Rodgers, Ten Hag, or Zidane, any of those guys. I mean, Pochettino's reputation is taking a hit at PSG because he failed to win the league title last year, in a one horse race. But I think that even he's a better coach than Solskjaer. That's obvious. So if he somehow left the job in Paris, then I think United would make a move for him because they've always been fans of him, and we take that. Any upgrade on Solskjaer, it would be welcome. But Pochettino would be fourth on my list. To be honest, those other three guys would be top of my list. I think Rodgers would probably be my favorite. It'd be great to see, as a local guy take charge of our favorite team as well, wouldn't it, Chris?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with Kyle. Yeah, I do like Brendan Rodgers as well. Obviously he was Liverpool manager, and that's the thing that most United fans will probably say is an X against his name. But actually, yeah, being a local guy, maybe we're biased, but I do like him, and I would like to see him, managing the team. I'd be more than happy with that. I think interestingly, when you think back and you're saying there about Solskjaer's coaching ability, and I agree, he doesn't have a hell of a lot of it, and I believe that he leaves a lot of it to McKenna and Carrick anyway. And if we look back, even at, not to hark back to the Fergie days, but, if you think about it, Ferguson himself wasn't a master tactician. He wasn't a top level coach as such, but he was a top level manager because, I feel what he did was he knew whenever he had a weakness, and he was able to bring in, say, Carlos Queiroz or somebody like that, who knew, or you have Rennie Mullenstein there, people he knew were good coaches to do the coaching. But one thing he always was able to do was make sure there was never complacency within the team. And that's unfortunate. That I would love to say that, maybe the solution would be bring better coaches in to do the coaching, but unfortunately the biggest problem is actually the complacency, and Ollie should be the man to sort that out, and he's not doing it. So I think that's number one thing needs to change, is somebody who's going to sort the attitudes out, never mind the tactics.
Yeah, there isn't a top manager or a top coach at the club, unfortunately. I mean, Solskjaer is the man manager, and he's the motivator, and then there's Carrick and McKenna are taking the training sessions. I mean, McKenna is younger than Ronaldo. He's very inexperienced coach. He's used to coaching youth players, and now he's coaching players like Ronaldo and Cavani. And then, I mean, Michael Carrick, this is his first job as a coach. I mean, you've got to have a lot more experience in there than that. I mean, Mike Phelan, according to some prominent journalists, overstates his role under Fergie, and I have to agree because, as you say, Mulstein and Queiroz were Fergie's assistants who took training. Mike Phelan was just a third guy there. I don't think his role was particularly massive, and Solskjaer brought him in immediately when he got the job, and I feel to see what he does, to be honest, and a lot of journalists have asked that question as well. So there's just, whether it be managers or coaches, they're all just not good enough. They all need to go. Every single one of them have to leave whenever Solskjaer does. There has been talk of an interim manager again, with Solskjaer was originally, because of a lack of availability of the preferred coaches. And a couple of the names that have been touted today are Ralph Rangnick, the German coach, who is a source of inspiration for all the top German coaches at the moment. Jurgen Klopp and Tuchel and Hassan Hüttl and the current Bayern Munich manager. They were all inspired by Reniak. He was the man who came up with what's known as Gaggen pressing, which is immediately trying to win the ball back as soon as you lose it, by pressing, the forwards pressing the defenders. So he apparently was one of the trailblazers of that style of play, and the younger German coaches now have taken that on and taken it to new levels. So he certainly seems like a guy who would be good in the interim. I don't think he's ever won a German title. I think he's won German cups and stuff, and he's currently a director of football in Moscow. But yeah, he's a thinker in terms of the game. I think he's a good coach, but I don't think he's the long-term option, but he would be a good interim. Another one that's been mentioned is Laurent Blanc, a former United player. He's managed PSG and France, and he won the Ligue 1 with Bordeaux, which is probably his most his best performance as a manager, because obviously winning the title PSG is not seen as a serious achievement. With Bordeaux, it is. You think he's out managing Qatar at the moment, but I have no doubt if he was offered the interim post at Old Trafford, he would come straight over to Manchester. So, Nigel, what do you think about those potential 2 interim appointments? Would you take it to the end of the season?
No, I wouldn't consider it for a single second. I think that if we want our club to be re-established as the best club in Europe, challenging for the Premier League and for the Champions League, we need to get it out there that we want the best coach possibly available with the best track record, and certainly someone who would be able to take over a dressing room full of dissension and big names like Pogba, who only perform when they choose to perform. That has to stop as quickly as possible. Let's get a big man in to do a big job, because we need it quickly, Kyle.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't want any more interims, because I would be afraid that if he won 10 games in a row and won the last 16 Champions League match, that they then give him the fucking job and would be stuck with him for 3 years. Don't want that situation again. Yeah, I want our next manager to be appointed during this international break, and the next permanent manager, that is. Yes, and I think the board seems to favour Brendan Rodgers. That's the noise coming out. That's the information that the journalists are giving us. So if they want him, they have to be willing to go and pay for him. It's going to cost them a lot of money to sack all these coaches that they've just given new contracts to a month ago, which is just absolutely unbelievable. It could only happen at our club. And then it'll cost them a further amount of money to go and get him out of Leicester. But we have to go and do it if we're going to have any ambition as a club. We need to remove the current coaches and go and sign a top coach. Have you any, Nigel? Do you think you any faith that this is actually going to happen in the next few days?
None at all. The vibes are that they're coasting along there. I think you told me that Woodward, who resigned, has postponed his resignation to the end of the next financial year, perhaps. So Richard Arnold won't come in as quickly as possible to make his decision. You were of the view, and I agreed, that he possibly would make a decision early on the management to sort of make his feelings known around the club and establish himself as the top figure. So that could happen. But if that decision of Woodward's deferred to next March, I think this club will coast along until then. They're more, as you say, they're more interested in the money and the business than they are about winning games and winning silverware.
Yeah, I mean, if we're going to wait until Woodward leaves before a manager sacked, I mean, the season's going to be over by that point. Right now, the season is still salvageable. We're not a million miles off the big teams, but if we allow this to go on to the new year, our season's going to be done and dusted, and then the only thing left to play for will be the FA Cup. So, Chris, I'm sure you're of the same view that you wouldn't be surprised if they wait until May to make a change.
No, not one bit at all, Kyle. Like you said, like we just said earlier there, yeah, exactly as Nigel said. I don't think they're that worried about it. I don't think they're that interested. They're only interested in their back pockets. No, I won't be shocked at all if Solskjaer sees the season out. Yeah, I think that what the fans want and what the owners of Manchester United want are two completely different things. And as long as they're getting what they need, whatever that may be, I think that they're happy enough. I mean, I would like to believe that come the end of the season, they would at least then say it's definitely time for a change. Barring a complete and utter miracle between now and then. But yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if he's still here and sees the season out, unfortunately.
Okay, fellas, we'll have to leave it there. We're out of time. Anyone listening, please leave us a subscription and please like the video if you're watching on YouTube, and we'll see everyone again.
Take care, guys.
Okay, goodbye. Thank you.